I'm Ed. I play guitar in Bury tomorrow. We are coming out to your end in end of August for a run across Australia with Make Them Suffer. It's also got Spite and Bloom on the tour as well. Yeah, we're just really looking forward to it.
Very cool. Thanks for joining us today, mate.
Yeah, no worries.
As you say, Barry tomorrow return to Australia for a run of shows would make them suffer for the Suffer Forever Australia tour, kicking off in Brisbane on August 30th, go through Newcastle, Sydney, Melbourne, Adelaide, finishing Fremantle on September 7th. Like, you're only out here last year, bro. Like, have you even unpacked from last time? It's pretty quick.
Yeah, just about. Yeah, it's funny because we actually got I think we got offered this tour when we were in Australia last year. So we were like out there doing that tour, and like in the middle of that tour, their sort of offer came through. Obviously didn't get announced until much later, but yeah, it was. We're just happy to be back. It's a really good time. Just
Yeah.
saying before, like I'm not a huge fan of flying, so it's like quite a big thing for me to go so far away from home. But it's last year was the first time I went to Australia, and it was such a good time that it's definitely worth any of the anxiety I get when I fly out there.
And let's elaborate on that a bit, bro. Like you say, flying is such a pain for you. So, what is it about Australia that makes you sort of shelve that and come back so quick? Like, feasibly, you could not come back for a couple of years and people would understand.
Yeah. It's just I think the people, the environment, and it's just there's just so much novelty about it that's just really beautiful. Like driving through like we had some very, very long drives on that tour, like 10-hour, 12-hour drives, and because you're just driving through like Australian fields and at no point does it really look like England. It just has that novelty of just being like, this is really cool. Like we're in Australia, like, and you see a kangaroo on the side of the road and you're just like, wow.
Yeah. And that tour was on the back of your album, The Seventh Son, that was released around the same time. So it's also a sign of just how good that album was, the fact that you can come to a country, a foreign country, twice on the one album cycle.
Yeah, I hope so. Yeah, I mean, we were playing a lot of that album on that tour, and it seemed to go down really well. It's a majority of our set list is newer stuff now, which is cool. Obviously, we always got time for the old stuff, and we'll always play some of the older songs. But yeah, it seems to have been received really well, which is really really cool. It just it felt really special when we were out there before, especially because we were like headlining shows, and we upgraded a couple of the venues and then sold them out, which was really unexpected for us. So we're just really excited to come out and play to even more people because obviously these shows are much bigger with Make Them Suffer headlining them. It's just a very very cool opportunity that we're super happy to be on board with.
And the Seventh Son was an album, like a lot of the focus around that album was the fact that you were shaping a new sound moving forward for the band. So looking back on it now after you've done it, like did it work? Did you sort of go where you wanted to go musically?
Yeah, I think so. It just I think it was an amalgamation of different influences from having it was the first album which had multiple sort of songwriters on it, as in people bringing demos to the band, because previously Dawson, the other guitarist in the band, was the one who would write all the music. So he would go away and write his demos, and obviously he'd have a little bit of input from the other guys, but it was him that was actually sitting down and churning out the demos. But this time around, we've got Tom and I who also add demos to the table, and like we've been fortunate enough that the guys have been receptive to those, to some of the songs that we've written and then fleshing those out. So I think it's just a case of the sound maybe being a bit different. It's obviously coming from Tom having a different voice to what was previously in the band, and obviously those different influences coming from, several different people at this point.
And The Seventh Son was also your first album with the band, mate, after joining in 2021. So how was that
Yeah,
experience for you?
yeah, very cool. The guys have just been so welcoming of me and Tom. It's I think they've just appreciated a rejuvenated, I guess, workflow and work environment, I guess. And yeah, I mean, when I joined the band, I certainly wasn't expecting to be writing music or contributing in that way, really, because I just was kind of like, oh, I'll leave that to you, sort of thing. And it's
Yeah.
a very nerve-wracking thing to send demos through. Like if I write a demo, I don't usually send it through to everyone. I usually just send it to Dawson first, and he's like my filter. And if he really likes it, then he'll
You're
send it
right
to like
now.
band will try and put vocals in it, and then it goes around like that. But I'm not like sending a demo into the group chat and then just waiting for everyone to listen to it is just terrifying to me.
Look at every 10
Even
seconds.
yeah, it's definitely gotten better since we, especially as we're like into the second album that we've done together now. But it's still very a nerve-wracking thing, definitely.
And how was it initially when you came in? Like you've come into a band that's already established, it's already got an established sound, I guess, an established fan base. Like, was there any extra pressure on you coming into that as opposed to if you sort of started something yourself, you reckon?
Yeah, definitely. I'd say there's always going to be people that compare it to how it was before, and there's always going to be people that prefer it how it was before, and that's completely fine. Like no problem with that at all. It's just an absolute given. Um, so yeah, I just think we're just along for the ride, basically. That's all I can say.
And yeah, Make Them Suffer have also invited out Spite and Bloom for the tour, as you say. Like, do you know much about those bands? Like, do you before a tour like this, do you go and do research on the bands, or do you rather wait and see them live?
Yeah, I definitely do. I'll always check out bands before we go out and watch them. Like Spite are a band who I've seen doing like touring. They've done some good touring over in the UK. I think they're from America. I might be wrong. And Bloom, I believe, are from Australia. If I'm right with that. And again, I've seen them. I think they're out with Polaris at the moment. So these are bands that I obviously see like on tour posters, and I've seen them on social media occasionally. But yeah, I'll definitely be checking them out before we go on tour with them.
Yeah. So for the benefit of those who missed you guys when you were out here last year, mate, like tell us what we can expect from Bury Tomorrow live.
I mean, we try and bring a high energy show as much as we can. It's we like to have fun as well. It's not all like serious. I guess yeah, we just try and bring like a good spread of what we can fit into the set list of the back catalogue, I guess, of new and old stuff. Um, and yeah, we just like a lot of crowd participation. Just over the years, we don't sit down and go, right, here's a song that we're going to do this in, or here's a song that we're going to tell people to jump in, or whatever. It just becomes this thing where as you play songs and over and over again, you go, this one's good for this one's good for that. So it's a good opportunity to do this. And I think we've kind of honed in a lot of the set in that respect of songs that are like staples of the set list. And keeping the energy up as much as we can, basically.
And as you travel around the world, mate, like you notice that different parts of the world like different songs in the set list. Like, do you have to change it up much from country to country?
Yeah, to an extent. Like when we did America last year, we sort of added in some old songs that we hadn't played for a while because we'd been touring Europe and we'd sort of exhausted them in Europe a little bit. But because we did the same thing with Australia actually, because we obviously haven't been in those markets as much. We were like, oh, these crowds haven't heard this old song and it's quite a good old song, so we'll add that one in, sort of thing. So things like that definitely come into play. But ultimately, it just comes down to what you can sort of fit into your whatever hour, whether you've got an hour or 45 minutes or whatever, and just picking at unfortunately, the more songs you release, the more difficult it gets to figure out, like, because if you release a single, obviously you have to add that in
Yeah.
and you want to play that live. So that cuts one old song out, which is a shame, obviously, to do. I think that's the benefit of headlining is for us headlining, we can sort of play the longest that we'd ever play for, but with a support set, it's definitely a lot more difficult to hone that
Yeah,
set
you got
list
to
in,
get
I'd
in
say.
that debate, like who wants this win in, who wants that one out?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
All right, mate. Well, thanks very much for your time, Ed. Been a pleasure speaking with you. Bury
No worries.
tomorrow back in Australia from August the 30th with Make Them Suffer, Spite and Bloom. There's still a couple of tickets left, so get amongst it while you can.